What's up YouTube, Webbers5 here, coming at you today with the deck profile of my Mythical Beasts. As requested by Huckster, who requested to see the pure variant of my Mythical Beasts, and also requested by Wade Wolme, who wanted to see the Sky Striker Mythical Beast version. So I thought I'd just put them all together into one big deck profile, and both of them also requested just seeing how it works a little bit, so I'll also go into some of the combos as well. So let's get straight into it then. Okay, so as I said, the deck is in three parts of the main build, and then there are the main cards that I run in the deck, then the cards that are in the pure variant, and the cards that are in the Sky Striker variant. So I'll get kicking off with the main bits. So kicking the profile off is, of course, three copies of Master Cerberus, because Cerberus is essentially the card you want to start off with. Cerberus is the card that you always want to start with. He searches out your entire deck as a scale, because he just searches any level 7 or lower Mythical Beast effect monster, which essentially is what the entirety of the remainder of the deck is. So he's the card you always want to start with, and then he's also just your spot monster removal by removing 4 spell counters, and the best way for you to beat over for game. Next up is three copies of Jackal King. Jackal King is great for setting. Jackal King is, if you can spam multiple Jackal Kings on your first turn for setting up, you're in a good position for getting a lot of negates on board. Simultaneously, he's also good for recurring Mythical Beasts from your extra deck, since Mythical Beasts lack the ability to pendulum summon within their own archetype because they're all scale 4s. But I don't really need to go too much into Cerberus and Jackal King because I do a lot of explaining about them in Magicians. So, but in their own deck, they're also some of the main guys as well. Next, along with the other two dogs, here's the last dog in play. Three copies of Mythical Beast Jackal. This, like Cerberus being your main searcher, this is your main floater? It's not really a floater, it's your... I don't really remember the official term for something that you use into something else. Hang on. Never mind, I'll figure it out later. If anyone knows the term, just let me know. So anyway, Jackal is Jackal is your main purpose as this thing you want to normal summon as a monster. So Jackal is, you can remove 3 spell counters from your field and tribute itself to special summon any Mythical Beast from your deck. So yeah, he's essentially the monster version of... He's kind of the monster version of Cerberus. And he's also the great... because he's a level 1, so he's really good with the new spell card, which I'll get into later. You can use him for a scale effect every now and then, which is target a card and put a spell counter on it if you're in desperate need of a spell counter, but frankly, if you're activating those as a scale, you're going to be putting a spell counter on something anyway. But the scale effect is pretty useful if you happen to open multiple of these in the hand, because since all the Mythical Beast monster effects are once per turn, but most of the monster effects aren't like hard once per turns. There's only a couple of them which I'll get to in a bit. But Jackal is just really great as your startup engine. Next in the deck, I'm playing 3 copies of Mythical Beast Basilisk for recovery. So Basilisk destroys itself to put a spellcast from the extra deck into the main deck, and then you get to draw a card. Basilisk can also remove 3 spell counters as a monster to put a Mythical Beast on your field or in your extra deck back into your hand. As a pendulum scale, it can't shuffle itself back, but as a monster, you can put itself back into your hand. So Basilisk is just a great way to keep the recovery going. Frankly, with the new spell card we've got, you don't really seem to need his monster effect too much if you're returning something from your field, but again, I'll get to that when I get to it. Next monster I'm playing is triple Mythical Beast Garuda. That's also the last monster I'm playing in the deck. 3 Garuda, so Garuda is, as a scale, it's back row removal, which is pretty good. I also like it for its monster effect of removing 3 counters from your field when your opponent summons a monster or monsters, and then you remove 3 counters from your field, special summon Garuda, and then return those monsters back to the opponent's hand. Unlike the other mythical beasts, Garuda's monster effect is a hard once per turn. So even if you have multiple Garudas in your hand, you can only use its monster effect once in that turn. Which makes sense because the ability to remove monsters at the cost of spell counters, that's pretty good. Okay. There is another monster within the archetype, but that's not really what I'm playing in the main bit of my deck because I don't find it very useful in too many situations. But I will get to it once I get to the pure version of the deck. So going into the spells, the main spells that I always play in the deck are starting up with 3 Magical Citadel of Endymions. This card gains spell counters every time a spell resolves. It also gains spell counters when a card with spell counters when a card that has spell counters is destroyed. You get to move all of its spell counters across to this card, and it can protect itself simply by removing a spell counter from it. So this is the main reason that Mythical Beasts works so well. That's your main resource of spell counters. Next, the newer cards that just got released in Cybernetic Horizon. 3 Mythical Institution. This card is one of the reasons that it's now working so much better than it did previously. So Mythical Institution gains 2 spell counters every time a Mythical Beast is destroyed. This includes both in the Monster Zone and in the Pendulum Zone. So whenever you use your Pendulum effects with them, you immediately put 2 spell counters on the Institution, which is really good. And then Institution has the secondary effect that once per turn you can remove any number of spell counters from your field to add any monster that you could put spell counters on with the same level as the number of counters you removed. So essentially the main aim of the Institution when you're starting up is just get 1 spell counter on your field, remove it, add Jackal, and then start going off. Another thing you can do with this is, to start it up easily, is just activate your Endymion first, activate an Institution, you get 1 spell counter on Endymion, then use the effect, remove that 1 counter, search your Jackal, then start going off from there. Yeah, the deck's been pumped so much because of this card, and I'm absolutely loving it. The next new spell we got was 3 copy that I'm playing is 3 Beast Magic Attack. So Beast Magic Attack removes spell counters from your field to activate 1 of 3 effects. So by removing 2 spell counters, you can return a Mythical Beast Pendulum monster you control to the hand, which is slightly similar to what Bashless does for 1 less spell counter. Though, in my personal opinion, the only Mythical Beast on your field that you would ever really want to bounce back to your hand is your Garuda, simply so you can use his effect again. Simply so you can use him as a disruption again or hit a back row. You could use it to put Jackal back in your hand if you've already used his negate, but you're still getting rid of something but that's kind of a big cost, so not really ideal. Like I said, essentially the only monster you will ever use the 2 effect on is your Garuda. Though if you're in a really desperate position and you need something like, say for some reason your Cerberus on the field is under a fiendish chain because you're playing Dark Patrician 84. If it's stuck like that, you realize, yeah, it's not doing much. You can just go Magic Attack, remove 2 counters, return it back, and then you can just use it again. What do I do? So the 4 spell counter effect is remove 4, special summon a Mythical Beast Pendulum monster from your extra deck, and then you can place 2 spell counters onto it. My only issue with this, why is the placing spell counters optional? Like, you're playing a spell counter based deck. You're going to want to put spell counters on it. Some people might be thinking 4 spell counters seems like a lot just to summon a Mythical Beast, but if you think of it from this perspective, the monsters you want to summon off for the second effect, the ones you want to summon off this, that would be your big monsters of Cerberus or Jackal King. Because in that situation, it breaks out perfectly even in terms of the spell counters you're using. So use Beast Magic Attack, remove 4 counters from your field, special summon Jackal King Cerberus, put 2 spell counters on it. Then immediately from your spell resolving, you get to put 2 more spell counters onto your Jackal King or your Cerberus. So you've used 4 spell counters and your summon monster now has 4 spell counters. So that pays off immediately. And then if you've got if you have other mythical beasts on board as well as your field spell, they're going to get spell counters as well. So you're essentially gaining 3 spell counters from playing your Beast Magic Attacks 4 effect. And then the final effect is you can remove 6 spell counters to special summon any pendulum monster from your extra deck. I'm still trying to figure out a pendulum that I could play in this deck that I consider is worth 6 spell counters. Because frankly, the only deck you would ever be playing this in is a Mythical Beast deck, and since all the pendulums you'd be playing would be Mythical Beasts, why would you essentially use the 6 effect when you can use the 4 effect? I've been trying to do some thinking of some pendulum. In my personal opinion, I can only think of one pendulum monster that I consider worth 6 spell counters, and that would be Nirvana High Paladin, simply because that's a synchro pendulum that is level 10, so that's very difficult to pendulum summon. And he's got a very strong monster effect. However, if I wanted to play Nirvana High Paladin just to use the 6 effect, then I've got to play a synchro monster as well as a tuner monster whose levels can match the synchro monster to add up to 10, which doesn't seem worth the space actually. But essentially that's the only monster I can think of that is worth the 6 spell counters. Like, Supreme King Zark is definitely worth the 6 spell counters because he's so amazing. Unfortunately, Zark can only be fusion summoned, so that kind of sucks. But I'm just going to leave this as an open question. If any of you guys out there can think of a pendulum monster that is worth 6 spell counters to use in this deck, leave a comment in the description or send me a message, and I'll think about it. And the last card in the main bit of the Mythical Beast is triple terraforming naturally to try and hit into your Endymion quickly, because you want to hit the Endymion quickly so you can start bolstering your spell counters so you can go off. So those are the main cards that I run in the Mythical Beast deck. And then the main cards that I run in the Mythical Beast extra deck are one Link Spider, just one Link Spider because of cards I play in both variants. That makes Link Spider very easy and helps go into bigger links. One Link Karibo. Again, I can use it from the 2 methods in both decks to summon it. Simultaneously, I can also use it in combination with Jackal because he's a level 1 monster, so I can use a Jackal to go into the Link Karibo if I want to. I can also tribute Jackal to special summon back Link Karibo. So, has that bit of synergy there. One Electromite. I don't really use it too much for its extension, but it's a nice way to get draws or recur back Mythical Beasts into my hand, which is pretty good. One Underclock Taker, just a generic link really. Can help to try and push for game with its pendulum effect, provided I've got one of the bigger Mythical Beasts underneath my Underclock Taker, which is pretty good. Yeah, and also the additional bonus of Underclock Taker is it doesn't state original attack points, so I could choose to use a powered up Master Cerberus, to banish, so I could use a Master Cerberus, remove 4 to banish a monster and gain its points. And if I put it underneath Underclock Taker, I use Underclock targeting the Cerberus and another monster, then it loses points equal to the powered up form of the Cerberus. So essentially, that pays off and letting me hit over 2 monsters at once. Next link I'm playing, one Decode Talker, just because he's generic, helps, but can extend my zones if I want to do multiple Jackal's effects or the previously mentioned Beast Magic attack. And gains points equal to the monster points, so another way to help beats over. And then the last link I'm playing, I'm not really sure about this for the moment, but it's what I'm going with. One Sayuja Skull Dread. Because if I open like if I have multiple of the Cerberus in my hand, I can use one to search, and then if I've got a way to make CYHO with at least 3 monsters, which I probably could do by using one of my Link 2s and then another monster, so that gives me... Oh no, wait, that would only be 2. I'd have to use 2 other monsters. So I could use... yeah, I still like CYHO for the moment. I might slot in my borrow load, but right now I'm kind of just waiting for borrow load to get reprinted, so I've got more borrow loads that I can use. So those are the main cards in the main deck. Moving on to the next parts, the cards that are in the pure variant. So in the pure variant, I am running 2 copies of Mythical Beast Medusa. Medusa I like in the pure variant because it combos with some other cards in the deck, like the Mythical Bestiary, and because Medusa's pendulum effect is it lets you target one monster in your graveyard that you can put a spell counter on, destroy Medusa, special summon that monster, and put 1 spell counter on it. So it combines with Mythical Bestiary if I happen to mill a Mythical Beast. I don't play it in general because, frankly, in the Sky Striker variant, I'm not really going to be having monsters in my... I'm not really going to be having pendulums in my... I'm not really going to be having any Mythical Beasts in my grave, so I can't really use the effect. Its monster effect is quite useful that in either player's turn you can remove 2 counters from your field, target an opposing monster and cut its points in half, which is pretty good for trying to beat over. But essentially, I only really like it in the pure variant, so it's just staying for that one. And that's it. So that's it for all the monsters I would play in the pure variant. And then additional spells I play in the pure variant. One Day of Peace. Mythical Beasts can be quite frail. Plus, it's just an additional spell. Frankly, it's also just an additional spell counter. So, 1 Pendulum Paradox to help recur Mythical Beasts back into my... to help reuse my Mythical Beasts and do them again. Put spell counters on the board as per mentioned. Next is 3 triple Mythical Bestiary. So just a way to put spell counters on my field, setting up if I desperately need them, and then also combos with the previously mentioned Medusa if I happen to mill a Mythical Beast. However, if the Mythical Beast I milled is Medusa, then that's not great. And then Bestiary I can naturally only use 1 Bestiary per turn. However, that's not so bad if I open multiple of them because I can always set one to use it later because it's a quick play spell, and simultaneously it tries to bait out its secondary effect that if the card is destroyed by an opponent's effect, you can special summon 1 monster from your deck that you can put spell counters on and place up to 2 spell counters on it. So if it's being threatened in your opponent's turn, you can just chain it to put 2 spell counters on something, then it gets destroyed and you get to special summon a monster that puts spell counters on. So that's pretty good. Next I'm playing Triple Power of the Guardians because it's a great way for me to get attack points to help push for game in the pure build. Simultaneously, it makes for a solid... It's essentially the perfect sword and shield because the equipped monster every time the equipped monster battles, it gains a spell counter. The equipped monster gains 500 attack and effects for each spell counter on it. And if the equipped monster would be destroyed, you can just remove a spell counter from your field instead. And that's not once per turn, so you can essentially just use it to sit behind a monster, provided you've got spell counters to use, which you always will, because when it battles, you put a spell counter on this. Near the end of the battle, when it would be destroyed, you can just remove the counter to stop it. And you can just keep doing that as a way to defend yourself if you desperately need to, but a great way to rack up attack points if necessary. Another fun thing you can do with this is, if it's in combination with the Bestiary, is equip something with this, do a couple of it to get an attack in, set this until your opponent's turn. If they threaten this, naturally you can target that to give your monster more attack points, or you can just wait until your opponent declares an attack, activate this, target this, put 2 counters on it, and then it's going to gain a 3rd counter because it's in battle, and you've just given your monster an extra 1,500, and you just gave your monster an extra 1,500 points to hit over something, which is pretty nice. Next spell in the lineup is 1 Megaton Magical Cannon. So this card is removing 10 by removing 10 spell counters from your field, you destroy all of your opponent's cards. So this card's really good mid to late game. Kind of difficult to pull off, but if you can resolve it, you're essentially in a really good position that you're going to win the game. But it is difficult to pull off because 10 spell counters can be a hefty cost. Last spell I'm playing, one Scapegoat just for Link Fodder, easy way to make into the Skull Dread, or Borrow Load if I'm ever using it. Because I could just go 2 Scapegoats, but I'll get into what I would make into it with a second. And then the last card I'm playing is 1 Trap card, which I just remembered about a few weeks ago. I'm playing 1 copy of Mythical Bestiamorph. So this card gains a spell counter every time an opponent's monster effect activates and resolves. And you can send it to the graveyard with 6 or more spell counters to add any spell card from your deck to your hand. So I like the idea that it just gives me a free... So I like that it's just a free spell. 6 spell counters is a lot to use, but in the format that we're in, it seems really easy to get 6 spell... It would seem very easy that your opponent could go through 6 monster effects very quickly. And again, with the previously mentioned Mythical Bestiary, you can pop those spell counters quickly, instantly. And if for any reason if it would be destroyed, and naturally if you're pumping your spell counters on and it would be destroyed, and you've got your field spell on, and you've got the Endymion on board, if it gets destroyed before you get to the 6 spell counter effect, then hey, at least you get to put 6 spell counters on your Endymion. And then, so that's it. So that's it for the rest of the pure deck. The cards I play in the extra deck for it, in the pure variant. 1 Mrs. Radiant to go with the Scapegoat to make a quick link 4, specifically Borrow Load, so I can just go at the end phase of my opponent's turn, Scapegoat 4 tokens, use 2 of the tokens to make Radiant, use 1 to make Link Spider, 1 to make Link Karibo, then use my 3 monsters to make Borrow Load. Or I might use the new Borrow Sword because he's really good as well. I actually honestly prefer Borrow Sword to Borrow Load. Next in the lineup, 1 Castel just to spin away a problematic card. Most of the monsters in this deck are level 4, so they're pretty easy to make. And then the last cards I'm playing is just the Utopia package. I've got a bit of extra space, so I thought I'd slot in a Utopia Ray as well. And Lightning is just a really great way to hit over big monsters if I'm in the position that I've got Cerberus, but Cerberus can't target that monster to gain any additional points. So Utopia just helps to give that additional bonus. Okay. And then next for the the cards I'm playing in the Sky Striker variant to increase the numbers. So let's kick that with 1 Sky Striker Ace Ray. Hornet drones are still at 3 for the moment, so I only really need 1 Ray. Ideally, I don't want to see Ray in my hand. I mainly want to send her to the grave of the Hayate so I can use her later. But Ray is pretty. But yeah, Ray's kind of just a staple. Next, triple mobilizing Engage, because Sky Strikers is just the main way to get the cards you want. Main way to get the cards that you want. It's not really too. Most people know how Sky Strikers work, so not really too much reason to explain why I'm playing Engage in this. And if some of you guys are wondering of the concept of why I'm trying Mythical Beast Sky Striker, when some of you might be thinking, doesn't that kind of conflict each other? Because Sky Strikers need to control no monsters, and Mythical Beasts kind of want to gain the spell counters quickly. I completely agree, but the idea of me using the Sky Striker engine in combination with the Mythical Beasts is if I can hit my field spell, early, or if I can hit my field spell and or institution early, I could just play Endymion, go off with all the Sky Striker spells, do as many of the Sky Striker spells as I possibly can, load up all of my spell counters for later, and then once I'm done with all my Sky Striker spells, I can my Sky Striker stuff, I can do my Mythical Beast stuff and start going off with them, setting them up. And so that's why I wanted to give this a go. I saw a build of it online and I thought, that's interesting, I might want to try that. Next spell I'm playing, Triple Hornet Drones, just to naturally going into your links go into the links quickly and start recurring and start getting my spell counters off quick. I'm probably going to drop this to 1 soon. That's based off the prediction that I honestly think Hornet Drones is going to get hit to 1. Next one, Triple Widow Anchor. Widow Anchor is a nice additional monster negate, and then if I've got 3 or more spells, I get to steal it, which is pretty nice. Yeah, so just a nice additional monster negate. If say I've used up the Jackal King, and then Jackal King gets destroyed, I can then use the Widow Anchor after my board's been cleared. So yeah, that's quite nice. And then one afterburner, just a spot removal for a monster. And then the last Sky Striker spell I'm playing is one multi-roll. So multi-roll can recur any Sky Striker spells I played during that turn, so I can then set. So then, if for some reason my board gets cleared during my opponent's turn, or if I combo with Beast Magic Attack to return Mythical. If say I've only got 1 Mythical Beast on my field, I can use Beast Magic Attack to return that monster back to my hand, just so I've got a clear main monster zone so I can start using them again in the next turn. Simultaneously, I like the effect of multi-roll, that by sending something on your field to the graveyard, your opponent can't activate anything in response to your spells. So that combines well with both of the decks, because it means you can essentially go off with all of your Mythical Beast spells without your opponent interrupting you. However, it does just stop your opponent from activating them. It only stops your opponent activating them in response to the activation. So that essentially just stops your opponent responding to activating them as a scale. If you activate their pendulum effect, though, they can still respond with cards like Ghost Ogre, MST, Twin Twister, blah blah blah. But still, it's a good additional stuff. And then the last one I'm playing, one Upstart Goblin, just to thin up the deck quickly. And that's it for the deck. And then the Sky Strikers extra deck. So that's triple Kagari. Just for your that's for your main attacker recurring card. Your main attacker recurring cards. That's pretty useful. I might pump these to the recently. I might pump these in rarity because Kagari They just released details of the next OTS pack. One of the ultimate rares is going to be Kagari. So I might rarity bump these when I get the chance. Another one of the cards that they rarity bump was Scapegoat is going to be an ultimate rare, as well as ultimate rare Droll and Lockbird. So I think those are going to be some very nice ultimate rares when we get them. However, one of the things I am predicting with the ultimate rares is, given some of the past, something usually along the lines of the ultimate rare in one of those decks normally gets hit. And there's a couple of Sky Striker cards also being reprinted, like, I don't think there's any more Sky Striker cards being reprinted in the OTS pack, but I have seen that we're getting the Sky Striker Ace token as a super rare, which is cool, but I really think it does mean we're going to see something along that lines get hit. But we shall see in the upcoming weeks. Next three Shizuku. She's the one I want to go. She's always the one I want to end my turn with, so I go Kagari, get my spell back, use it again, end phase Shizuku, get a new spell, and then also in my opponent's turn it means all their monsters are losing a mass ton of points because of the number of spell cards I'm playing. And then the last spot, one Hayate. One of the things I like about Hayate is that she's a zone that points to your field. She can also hit directly as well, so you hit directly, then use her effect to send a Sky Striker from your deck to your grave. The card you always want to send is Ray, just so you've got Ray available, provided that you didn't use the Ray to summon into it the first time. So another thing you could do is just send a card that you want to recover off the multi-roll, or something that you can bring back with another Kagari next turn. And she's one of the main reasons I wanted to try the Mythical Beasts in combination with the deck, because now there's a Sky Striker that points to your own field, so it means I can still do my Mythical Beast extra deck plays and go off from there. Okay, so that's it for the profile, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments what you thought of it. And as I said previously, if any of you guys can think of a Pendulum monster that you feel could be worth 6 spell counters for me to try in this deck, let me know in the comments. I'll think about giving it a try. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks again to Wade Wolme and Huckster for requesting this profile. Thank you so much, guys, and I will see you next time.